7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Live from the Rob Christensen Radio Network Satellite Studio, it's Jim and Rob Overanalyze the Movies. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Jim and Rob Overanalyze Movies, live video podcast for people who love to talk about movies as much as they love watching them. Welcome tonight to our first post-Oscars film and Jim and Rob's return to more genre filmmaking, let's say. Tonight we're going to be taking a look at Love and Monsters, what I would call a romance sci-fi horror monster movie, starring, of course, Dylan O'Brien. This flick, and bear with me, everyone. Here's the log line from IMDb. 7 years after he survived the monster apocalypse, lovably hapless Joel leaves his cozy underground shelter. Yeah, when I think underground shelter, I think cozy. Behind on a quest to reunite with his ex-girlfriend. It was directed by Michael Matthews, written by Brian Duffield and Matthew Robinson. It's, again, starring Dylan O'Brien, also starring Jessica Henwick, Dan Ewing, Ariana Greenblatt, and Michael Rooker. I think let's get to the political context of this flick. Sorry, everyone, take that off quickly. On the production side, would this film earn a reframe stamp? No, it would not. Is it union made? Yes, it is. On the storytelling side, you know what? Would it pass the Bechdel test? I don't believe it would, but I'm open to being corrected by my co-host or in the chat. But I don't think it passed. Does it have a class consciousness? No, it does not. This is not the movie you're looking for here. Anyway, so that's kind of where we're coming from here. Now I think it is time to welcome my co-host, hopefully a guy who will have my back in the monster apocalypse. Let's welcome on Mr. Jim Chloboyko. How you doing, my friend?
It's right behind you.
Well, this big green screen.
Yes, could be anything.
And green's a big color here.
Yes, yeah. No, good. The weekend goes by really quickly, but get the music going.
Get the tunes going. How are you? Are you good?
Cool. Yeah, a little bit rained on today, but overall not a bad weekend. Nice to have some time away from the office. It was a bit of a crusher this past week, but it's all good. I make sure to use up every minute, like I'm sure everyone else does. So that's,
cool.
That's good.
All right, listen. I've got a couple of treats for us all, but I think it might be a good time to first say hi to everyone in the chat, because, goddamn, guys. Jim, you'd agree we do have the best chat on the internet, eh?
Oh, yes. Yep, absolutely.
All right. First of all, we've got Vlad65, 1/3 of the Balmoral Street Research Irregulars here. Good to see you, Vlad.
Hey, Vlad.
Then the Upside Dan. Oh, and you know what, Vlad, let's give you a wave.
Oh, yeah, sure. Woo.
And same, great to see you, the Upside Dan, great friend of the show, fellow movie YouTuber. Wave for you, wave
Another one,
for everybody.
Yes.
Oh, Eric Thorpe Reviews. Good to see you here, Eric. Always great to see you. Another great friend of the show. And he's just finishing the movie, but a quick wave for you, my friend.
He's doing the homework on a Monday morning before the bus comes.
Literally sitting in the bus shelter. I'm going to make this. All right. And then, of course, oh my goodness, Richard and Katie, the other 2/3 of the Balmoral Street Research Regulars. I think that deserves a whoa wave. All righty, folks, great to see you all here. And of course, they're having their adventures within the chat. I think it's now time, though, to I got a couple of things before we get to our major. Let's again. A treat, surprise, kind of. Jim and I, of course, discussed this, but I did want to, something I briefly mentioned the last show, and I wanted to, again, remind everyone. Jim, do you remember when we were talking about, and here, let me get you over here. Wolfwalkers. And I'd gotten there was a comment, this is a few weeks ago, later comment, where the General Amoras, I believe that's the individual's name, made a great comment and said that, one of the things you and I might have missed was a transgender or a queer reading of the film. Oh. And so I'm going to put up on there, folks, this is also, if you go to the Wolfwalkers video, you'll find it, but here, and I will pin this comment after tonight's show, but there's a bit.ly reference. You can always just type it in. It's a short piece, like maybe 500 words, maybe, on, again, a queer reading of Wolfwalkers. I wasn't quite buying it, especially the way the film ended. You know what, like where it almost like went back to like a nuclear family, and the two girls are just friends, and everyone's a wolf now, and you got mom and dad, like. Yeah, but it is an interesting take, and I do recommend people read it. It was kind of quite neat. Yeah, it was General Armorus. And thank you, General Armorus, for making the comment and bringing it to our attention. Yeah, Jim, I'd be interested if you get a chance to take a look at it get your feedback on it as well. But General Armorus, this is not a knock on it. I'm so glad you brought it up. Like I said, I wasn't quite buying it, just the way the story played out. Like they really kind of, they could have went there, but in the end, it was more of a, if that's what they were trying, they kind of undercut it at the end. So yeah, there you go.
Kind of food for thought. That kind of food for thought thing is always kind of one of the nice byproducts of sort of being immersed in pop culture is, having a different take, or, and it happens quite a lot. I like when they talk about older movies in that way. Here's a new way to look at that. It's I find it sort of adds to it, whether or not you agree with it or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and I think that's exactly it. And it's funny, actually, with our next, we do have a guest, folks. And it was something before the show, as we're doing sound check and everything, we chatted about briefly, was that what you bring to it, and, that closer reading, and how that kind of adds to our, we don't necessarily have to agree because we are bringing our own stuff to the table, how it does kind of maybe even heighten our appreciation of a piece, Yes. Yeah. Okay. All right, everybody. Now that that's out of the way, here, Jim, I'm going to shamelessly put myself center stage briefly. Yeah. Folks, y'all may remember last weekend, Hot Take Henry, and yes, I believe I finally decided on a name for him. Hot Take Henry came out with our Oscars show and our whole Oscars contest, our prediction contest, and everything. For those of you who don't know, a great guy, Jonathan, man of movies. He and you know what? That was not supposed to play out that way. But anyway, Jonathan Here, might as well just stick him right in the center. Jonathan, Man of Movies, won. He was the got the highest score amongst all the audience, and Jim and I felt that this should be celebrated in a way that didn't cost us any money. And so we figured that out, and we want to make a presentation to him. But first of all, let's welcome Jonathan from the show Man of Movies. Jonathan, welcome to Jim and Robert Analyze Movies.
I'm here.
That's right.
Thank you so much. I just want to thank the Academy for this opportunity.
He's already said he's been dreaming of this for years.
As well he should.
Yes.
That's fantastic. So, Jonathan, well, you know what? Why don't we get to the presentation first, and then we'll talk. We'll ask you, what was your secret? What, where are you coming from? Movies. You weren't a ringer, but you weren't exactly just somebody we hustled in off the street, throwing darts at a board. So, all right. Let's get. Oh, wait. Make sure I got this on there. Fancy. Make it fancy.
Oh yeah, man.
All right.
Where are you based out of, Jonathan?
I'm in Florida. I'm right outside of
okay.
Orlando. Right outside of Orlando.
Oh, nice.
Fantastic. Yeah. All right, here we go. And you will get this PDF shortly.
Awesome.
But yes, Jonathan, Man of Movies, and a special shout out to Cody at the Brock Upside for doing this up for us. Jonathan, Man of Movies, won a YouTube Oscars guessing game and only got this crappy PDF.
Great. Love it.
I think it's important, though, to note that the bearer of the certificate of Oscars Prediction Supremacy brackets audience enjoys all the rights and privileges of one who is held in the highest of esteem by all good folk, including the panelists and audience of the first annual Jim and Rob's Oscars Watch Party, namely to adorn their personal and digital spaces with this certificate, subject, of course, to any local, state, national regulations, private lease agreements that may supersede this right/privilege. That's really important to note. Ooh. Jonathan. This ain't on us.
Absolutely.
You have to be aware. Further, the grantors of this certificate, that would be Jim and myself, accept no liabilities, nor does the certificate carry any guarantees or warranties, expressed or implied. So just be aware.
Absolutely.
Anyway, there you go. Don't you feel honored now, my friend?
I am beyond honored. I was expecting breadcrumbs, so this PDF was the highlight of my day, dude.
That's awesome.
Fantastic. So what did you, okay, you're just outside of Orlando.
Yeah.
What was your secret? What do you think? What was your preparation? What made you come out on top last Sunday?
Believe it or not, dude, it's not any like high algorithm freaking Goodwill Hunting type thing where I'm just thinking and piecing the things together. I just played it safe, my man. I played it safe and it got me the win. That's all I can say.
Did you, now when you say, what does that mean, playing it safe?
Nah,
what?
The general consensus of what many people were saying we're going to win the Oscars.
Yeah, gotcha.
Mm-hmm. Played it safe?
Yeah.
Were there any were there any categories that you sort of took a chance on? Like there was one person that got the best song, and I think probably not a lot of people got best actor. Was there one that you chose on a whim and that surprised you?
Before I don't know how to pronounce her name, but YJ from Minari started getting all that front runner, heat of, she's going to win. I was saying for the longest, I'm going to vote for her, even if she wasn't being campaigned as much. And even if she wasn't the front runner, I was going to be voting for YJ either way. It just happened that by the end of the season, she was the front runner. I would say it was really her. So no, I don't really think I had any crazy picks, but things did surprise me for sure.
Yeah.
What was the biggest surprise of the night for you?
I mean, other than Best Actor, other than that one.
Yeah.
Which surprised literally everyone except Sean. Sean from Lost in the Reel, which is the only reason you came in overall third, is because Sean snatched it right at the end.
What happened there? I haven't asked him yet, but I want to know, why did he go for Hopkins at the very end?
You know what? Yeah, you'll have to ask him. You have to ask him straight. I want to say that was like one of his personal choices. He was not using the any kind of crowd wisdom of the crowd thing, but yeah. But
I think he mentioned, didn't he mention hearing something, a little bit of chatter about it, as they say in the intelligence circles? I just a little bit, enough to sort of swing his vote, I think, though. He's watching now.
I was hearing a little bit of chatter about Anthony Hopkins getting a win over Chadwick, but I would have honestly bet my left kidney that Boseman was going to win. And I'm happy I didn't.
Listen, Sean, you are in the chat. We are talking about you. Let's relieve us of this tension. What was it? Was it just your gut, or were you hearing stuff, or was he hearing stuff and gut? We'd love to hear that before we let Jonathan go. Listen, Jonathan, why don't you, before we go back to the Oscars, why don't you tell us about, you have a YouTube channel. Like, it's not just, why don't you tell us about Man of Movies, where you came up with that handle, and what's on your channel?
Well, super complicated, guys. I am a man who loves movies. I love movies. I am a man of movies. That's why I never really put the. I made a conscious decision to not put the, because I'm not the man of movies. I'm a man of movies. Just like Rob is a man of movies. Jim is a man of movies. I just happen to have that as my handle. But my channel, just like any other Joe Schmo movie reviewer out there, I review all film. Doesn't matter what kind of film it is. Before the pandemic hit, my goal was just every single week I reviewed the newest release. But then the pandemic hit and my channel was just thrown in a loop. But I'm getting there now with newer releases coming out every single week. So I'm back in the flow of things, and hopefully with enough flair to keep my subscribers staying with my content.
Well, I've been enjoying it. Like I said, I had to kind of hold. Same with actually Sean's on the same movie, the Mitchells versus the Machines. I almost I want to see this movie myself now. And then I want to see your and Sean's review. It'll be flipping the coin on which one I watch afterwards. Okay, Lost in the Reel does chime in. It was the BAFTA win precursor. And a mix of guts and words. So it was chatter, BAFTA, mix of guts. And it was a ballsy move that put him in second place, like literally right at the end. Let me ask you this, Jonathan. Notwithstanding, because we're like, the contest wasn't about what we thought, but what we thought these voters would do.
Yeah. If
you could have picked anyone for Best Picture, were you Nomadland anyway, or was there another flick where you would have been, if it was me, I'd pick that?
Yes. I commented on one of your live streams when you talked about Nomadland and you went into it, and I kind of gave my thoughts there a little bit, but I wasn't the biggest fan.
Or ranted. I may have ranted. It may have been a rant.
Oh, great. I love it, man. I want to see more of it. But I gave my thoughts there a little bit. I wasn't a big fan of Nomadland. Short and simple. Just thought it was boring as hell. Just
well,
not.
Both you and The Upside Down were both kind of like, why all the excitement?
Yeah. Now, if it was the Man of Movies Awards, my pick would have been between either Promising Young Woman, don't know if that's a hot take or not, but Promising Young Woman, or The Father. It would have been between those two for me. I think the father inching over Promising Young Woman, but either or I would have been fine. Anything but Mank.
You weren't the only one. You know what? It's interesting. I wouldn't say any of those is a hot take. definitely not. Yeah, Mank. Even for myself, I don't know about you, Jim, but Mank. When I finally got around to watching it, and this is what bugs me about David Fincher films in general. They can kind of lean into that. Look at me directing. That kind of overly stylized, like really sort of overt filmmaking.
Yeah.
Not my thing. And so I would have been with you on that, except for my mean on for Nomadland. That kind of took over everything. What about you, Jim? Like, I mean, I don't think he's given us any hot takes. Like, I mean, it was a good crop, notwithstanding Mank. Like, no one was what the was that doing there?
Yeah, and not,
I don't think.
not having a hot take doesn't mean it doesn't mean it's bad necessarily, or like, I get it. It's funny that Promising Young Woman, I sort of wonder, and after having watched it myself, I got it. Like, I got the love for it and the energy of it and the style of it, and it seemed to have a vision behind it. Like the vision of it was that it was a good, strong engine for the movie. But I've heard similar things from, I sort of wonder if it's generational. Sometimes, some of the younger folks like the poppier, and I loved Promising Young Woman as well. But I saw a little bit of a sort of a generational gap. Older critics, older sort of establishment critics tended to like things like Nomadland, whereas the sort of the us guys, the YouTube crowd, younger folks tended to like, I think Cody was the first one, or Sean, or both of them mentioned Promising Young Woman. And I did watch it before.
December when he was on our show was like, this is the movie, and he's stuck with that.
And it's funny you mentioned Fincher. My wife and I this afternoon, we just watched, we were just sort of hacking around, and we watched the Ass Crack Bandit episode of Community, which is a whole David Fincher takeoff. And it's with somebody who drops coins down people's pants. Season 5, and it's just it's so it's that scary lighting, but that's those tense scenes, and he's stuck in the office with John Oliver, and anyway, I don't want to get it too far away from it, but anyhow, so I get it. I sort of wonder if this year there was a lot more variety of opinion, perhaps. There didn't seem to be one strong opinion, which is nice, keeps it fresh.
Well, it was one of the commentators I really enjoy. He was originally a 538. He's got one of those Substack things going on now. I leaned on him, like back to that wisdom of the crowd, like Walt Hickey, and he was saying this was the break, or he was talking about how 2012, one of his recent pieces, was a break year where right now 50% of the Academy's members, voting members, became members since 2012. So all of a sudden you've got and I think that speaks to the diversity of opinion. But I'm also wondering, and Jonathan and some other folks in the chat, like how much filmmakers are being affected and playing for that kind of feedback and that interaction they can get with their audience, their core audience. It's really going to push their movie. I like the way you divided it, Jim, that sort of the hip crowd. And I also like that you went and the YouTube crowd to fit us into with the hip kids. But
well,
like, what do you, does that make any sense to you, Jonathan? Or you,
hello, fellow youths.
Ring true?
Reword that question. Just reword the question and I'll answer.
Are you buying? I guess I'm building an argument that part of the reason there was for the Oscars a diversity. For the Oscars, a diversity of films, in part is their membership has become like, yeah, half of them have become members since in the last 8-9 years. So they're going to be not necessarily spry young spring chickens, but they're going to be younger. Like, all of a sudden, there's this group that's a little more, let's say, modern in their sensibilities.
Yeah.
So that too, though, and I'm like, and this is something we've all starting to experience, is how much filmmakers, especially if they've got edge fare, stuff that isn't necessarily going to take mainstream imagination, how much they are, maybe they're catering, but they're engaging with their audience a lot more, like directly. They're being affected by it. I think they are being affected by the YouTube critic scene. Maybe not our, channels quite yet, but we are part of that scene. And then that was Jim's kind of the young people on YouTube, and then other YouTubers like Jim and I. So there you go. Does that make the question a little clearer?
Yes, I think I understand where you guys are coming from. And I can't say, now that the Academy has really upped their membership, it does play into the diversity of the different films we do get. But I, as a Hispanic, I still hope that we just judge film for film's sake, and not because it has a feminist who has a revenge tale, or because it has a full cast of African Americans. Though the film may be amazing, I don't want us to get another Trial of the Chicago 7 where it's just woke for the sake of woke. Good films are good films, and we should honor those.
You need to watch my rant on the Trial of Chicago 7, because I did not feel it was woke.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I need to watch it. I will watch it. I will definitely watch it. And now,
okay.
As for the second question you were asking about newer filmmakers, I guess, trying to get newer people like us in the YouTube atmosphere to watch their films. I actually saw, I don't know if you guys have, the new Nicole Beckwith movie Together with Ed Helms. It just came out about a week ago. Well, I thought it was a great film, but the film at the very end ends with a Q&A. So I see where you're coming from about, like, hey, we want to get you guys involved and engaged with this, even to the very end. So the film starts out with a message saying, hey, stick to the end, we have a Q&A, because they want us to be engaged with them. They want us that by next year, I'll remember Together and go, that was the movie that kept me in my seat because they wanted to talk to me.
Yeah.
So
you're absolutely right. Like that, and we are starting to see that. But I'm even thinking, like, just, you know what, whether it be through social media or even they're just taking, like, let's say the YouTube, the social media commenters a little more seriously than they ever would have given a rat's ass about some letter to the editor, or some letter in film comment. They would have been, I don't care, unless they're really into film comment. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think the
it broke up a little bit, so I was confused.
Okay, you're saying continue.
No, I was just gonna add in that we are the modern day critic, in the same way that Roger and Ebert were back in the day. That's us now. Not specifically you or me, but I understand and agree with you completely that our words are taken so much more serious than the editors nowadays. Is that a good thing? I don't know. I think it is.
It's a bit of both, I suppose.
Maybe.
It is interesting to have like a conversation, whereas you wouldn't. It was really more a conversation between gatekeepers. But listen, we're going to have you back to continue that part of the conversation, in part because Jim, because I want to go to Jim, but then we're going to turn this whole show into film criticism and what is criticism really. But this is a conversation Jim and I have had offline that we love to bring into the show. sometime in the future. So are you up for that, Jonathan?
I'm up for it whenever you can have me, man.
All right.
Woo-hoo.
Well, listen.
We're going to Orlando.
We're going to Disney World. We're going to Disney
trip.
World.
And we'll have this conversation on the teacups. Okay, Jonathan, you're correct me if I'm wrong. You hang out when you're not doing your YouTube videos. You hang out on Instagram mostly, and that's at manofmovies96. Correct? All right, folks, it's right there on the screen. Go follow him. I do have his channel in the description of this video. You have to click on it and go to it, but you'll see friend of the show and great YouTuber. Jonathan, what are you most excited about? What's coming out on? What can you share about what's coming out on your channel? What are you excited about, man?
So currently I'm going through the Saw films for the very first time. I'm about 16 years late, but it's my road to Spiral. So I'm reviewing each Saw film. My first time watching it, the good, the bad. I add some funny skits in between if you get too bored of my opinion. And I got something planned up that it's definitely something you want to look for and be prepared for.
Sounds cool, man. All right, everybody. Yeah,
Wow.
go check Jonathan's channel out. He reviews a wide range of films, something we were talking about. We all come with let's say an eclectic view of film. It's not just one genre, one style, one type. And again, his link is in the description. Go follow him on Instagram at manofmovies96. Jonathan, thank you so much for coming. Thanks for accepting this wonderful award. And for being such a great sport, man. Really appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having me, man. Thank you.
Very much
Yeah,
our
nice
pleasure.
nice meeting you online. And last Sunday was fun.
Yeah.
Super fun, definitely.
Hey, how did you hear about it? What I forgot to ask. How did you hear about the contest? Was it just following us and then it came up and you thought screw it, or was like you? I think our overlapping connection is Sean at Lost in the Reel, isn't it?
I think it is our overlapping connection, but I have been subscribed to you guys for a while, so I would have known about it either way. But
nice.
Sean did let me know about it prior.
All right, man. Okay, Sean can stay our friends for a little longer, Jim.
A little bit.
All right. Thanks again, man. We'll see you around.
Yeah, take care.
If you got time, stick around. Love to hear your opinion on this film in the chat, brother.
Awesome stuff. Thank you, guys.
You bet.
Yeah, take care.
Oh, that was really cool, eh?
Yeah. Our first Floridian, I think, on the show. So that was neat.
Yeah, that was very. Yeah, you know what, Jim? We need a map of the United States, and we'll start pinning where these folks are from. I think that's just. We really have been fortunate, I think, in some of the awesome folks who have joined us and who've collaborated with us and who've gotten into the spirit of what we do. So, last week was a lot of fun. Go ahead.
And if I was just going to say, if you watch, I noticed him when he commented on. He sent us a comment maybe a couple months ago, 6 weeks ago, and then I watched a few of his videos. Very nicely delivered, high energy. He's obviously enthusiastic about films, and he's it's a good channel to follow. It's a good follow in any case. So.
Yeah, he is great, engaging personality without being loud and as opposed to loudmouth such as myself. All right, everybody. I think it's now time to, and Jim and I, we're going to continue to experiment. The internet has provided this awesome thing. So we can start to see your chat on the screen, because I just think that's kind of awesome. But let's, Jim, let's start talking about the actual flick.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, listen to this. Lost in the Real. Right out there. Not talking about you, Sean. You're on the more engaging side. Okay, Jim, let's talk about this flick. What are your first thoughts?
First thoughts. I was sort of in the mood for something like this, and you and I had discussed it a little bit offline, off show. That we'd seen a lot of these kind of Nomadland-ish kind of slightly downbeat. We hadn't watched a genre movie in a while. I think Space Sweepers was maybe the last one. Something fun anyway. And and then we picked it, and then I thought, how are you going to do like a dystopian thing, a dystopian movie, and keep it fun and with potentially violent deaths and large bugs and razor claws and all that kind of thing. I think the biggest challenge for this movie was keeping its tone, for it to keep its own tone, and just to have it sort of engaging through the whole thing. And bottom line, I enjoyed it. I think the tone remained constant. I have a few issues about how easy a couple things were, but by and large, as I said, I quite enjoyed it. Having that sort of, I don't know if nebbish is the right word, but having that sort of you can argue that Dylan O'Brien's character is descended from kind of from a Woody Allen-ish, John Cusack, that kind of delivery, that kind of self-deprecating, the guy who doesn't really, he's not very handy necessarily.
Jesse
and he's aware of it.
Jesse Eisenberg in Zombieland was probably the most recent example of that slightly schlubby, kind of awkward, maybe.
A good guy, but he's sort of, he realizes his own limitations, and it's, I thought that was well delivered. I think if you had another character, it wouldn't be nearly as interesting. You know more about the hero's journey than I do, but I thought it kept its tone and it was engaging throughout. Again, we'll talk about some of the deficiencies later, but I liked it.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jim. I'm going a little. I really loved this film, and yeah, you're right. I think some of it was I was just really open for enjoying a film, like just having fun with a film. I'm very partial to hero's journey arcs. That said, I'm incredibly partial to a film that I thought it was like, boy, this really is a great, gentle satire of both the post-apocalyptic film, like right down to some awesome stunt casting at the end. Like, just really like, mwah. And satire of romance, especially teen romance. But romance, true love triumphing in that, but gentle, that they take the sting out of it. They're not there to tear down the genre, but it's not a parody either. And so, yeah, I was really, really impressed with this film. I do think I know what you mean about ease. And so that'll be fun to talk about later. But yeah, as far as this film goes, I was really open for it, and notwithstanding the deficiencies I suspect we're going to agree on, by the end of it, it got me in the feels. I got a little choked up, and I really appreciate the critiques of both those, like some of the tropes of the genre, the way it started right through, like how thematically consistent. Yeah, no, I really enjoyed this film. But again, part of it's, I really needed this movie. I needed this kind of nonsense.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah. We're starting to get a few comments, and you can see them scrolling up and down the screen there, because I've gotten fancy.
No, there's a train whistle. Did anybody hear that?
Coming through.
Yeah, that's just the atmosphere.
Atmosphere. All right. Now, what we'll also do, let's knock this one off quickly, Jim.
Sure.
Is it worth your time?
The train says yes.
Does Jim say yes?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, ditto. Yeah, one of the easiest recommends we've had for a while, eh? Like, because sometimes you felt like some of the movies we're recommending, it's like you're recommending, with some brown sugar, this oatmeal is a great way to start your day.
Yeah.
You need to think about regularity now. All right, I'm going to do a quick scan of the chat, and then we'll get into the spoiler zone. Is that cool with you, Jim?
Yeah, I'm going to just give the train engineer a piece of my mind. He can't shut up. But anyway.
You know what? It allows for some color.
It does.
It reminds us that we're not in the apocalypse yet.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
All right. Folks, and just so you know, folks, echo Dan, follow Jonathan. A lot of fun there. One more time, I'm going to remind, yes, everyone, I was referring to this loudmouth, not any of our wonderful panelists, who I think also bring a great kind of energy to their shows and everything, to their channel. And we wouldn't have them on multiple times if we didn't like them, and if we thought it was a bad idea for you folks. All right. Walt says, and this here's a first. Was it a hot take? Maybe a little bit. You know what? Walt says it was okay for what it was. Thought the ending was a bit too everything in the kitchen sink. I'm going to disagree with that, but we'll get into that in the story.
Sure.
And was it ageist? Yeah, I'm not going to give that a hot take. It had a little bit of that, maybe, eh, Jim?
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, I thought it was an interesting choice. Like, did they explain it? Was it working in an old folks' home, or it just happened to be all old folks?
It just could have been the way it played out.
Yeah.
You know what? Maybe, we're going to get into the spoiler zone before we've even warned anyone. So,
okay.
All right. Eric Thorpe doesn't think it's something he'd rewatch, but he can understand why we like it, he thinks. Well, we'll find out more later. You know what? He felt Raya and the Last Dragon was more his kind of hero's journey cup of tea. What were you, Jim?
No.
I thought you were waving.
No.
Okay. So anyway, with that done, everyone, I am going to, and I know there's comments up there, but I'm going to try if it's something I should have caught and I've just missed it because we're trying to keep the show moving, please just repeat it at me, at Rob Christensen, and we'll make sure we get to it. All right, with that out of the way, I think we're in the spoiler zone now, eh, Jim?
Yep, absolutely.
Okie doke. Well, with that out of the way, let's talk about the look.
Sure.
For myself, actually, you go first. I got something I was really surprised by on the look of this film, but
okay.
I want to hear what you thought.
So one of the things that I liked about the look, and I'm a kind of a movie locations guy. I love researching that stuff. I sort of wonder and I saw the credits at the end. I didn't really know much about where it was filmed, but all the credits referred to Australia, and I thought, could this possibly have been filmed in Australia? Turns out that the bulk of it was filmed in Queensland, which is the northern tropical or semi-tropical state. Brisbane is the capital. Spent a little time there a couple years ago, and it's pretty jungly at times. But how that works into the look is that, in a lot of these movies that we see with wilderness and crossing the country and that sort of thing, we see a lot of this. I think this was supposed to be California, but it didn't look to me like it was unfamiliar terrain. The trees, and I thought about this sort of more there was something about it. The trees didn't look like typical North America. It wasn't a typical rainforest or redwood forest. It wasn't one of those. There's one kind of wilderness area that you constantly see in LA shot productions. But and I thought that those sort of knobbly trees and the gums and the gum trees and everything else, and just the layout of the land, it didn't look super familiar to me, and I found that really engaging. That was just the flora all looked different, and that sort of helped in with the look of this changed this changed wilderness from all the the contamination and that sort of thing too. So that was the one major thing for me.
Mm-hmm. What did you find? Like for myself on the look, I remember writing it down before, thinking, well, because you can tell in the trailers, any of the clips, you couldn't help see, because even when you're avoiding reviews and that, you're still seeing snippets. How brightly was it lit, except for the odd time, even when it was in the dark, it had it felt like comedy lighting. Okay, so they're going to keep it bright, even lighting, comic lighting, and for that purpose. And then I put a little question mark because, once it was maybe a third of the way through, Jim, or half of the way through, it's like, no, it's not just bright. It's also, and I think it kind of spoke to theme and everything, but they're really showing off a beautiful, weird, but beautiful world. Like it was actually part of the world building that, they were in the dark and then come out into the light and the whole breathing and everything. And the look was super important. And it was green, but not necessarily that threatening green. It was very alive. And I think the cinematography for them, that was really important. But then even some of the set dressing was like just even moments where it's like, do not go, danger, death awaits, do not go past this point, do not go on, or, find like some of the graffiti, like there's just great world building in there, like great vibe, like, which I also think was thematic. Like it's been a while, Jim, since seen such a thematically, for me, consistent film, but it was cooked there in the look, even, and in the story too, his red jacket, the dog, the dress, that kind of stuff. I thought that was super, super cool. Here, let's take a quick shout out to, first of all, DMG. Good to see you here, man. And then looks like we also got Mr. Curtis Judd.
Woohoo!
Great to see you here, man.
Hey, Brian.
Yeah. So yeah, I think, I really I liked the look because it was both purposeful, but like totally fit. Like they were building a world. Yeah. The world, like you said, you bought into it. I wasn't ever going, I didn't roll my eyes. I was like, and even some of the little moments, Jim, where you'd see they do the long shot. It was also another great movie with no budget and how they leaned into that. Oh my goodness. Shashank is here.
Wow.
Popping in. Good to see you, brother.
Gang's all here.
Looks like he's got a class and a test coming up, but thanks Shashank for dropping in. Really appreciate that, man. I thought the way the look worked, it rarely did it look cheap. In my opinion, it never looked cheap. There's some folks in our chat that may it got a higher standard when it comes to VFX, and but I thought it all worked. I thought the look worked throughout, costume, everything.
I mean, typically I'm not a huge fan of too many special effects, too many video. I mean, every movie's got them. I always say jokingly to the kids, at the end where they say no animals were harmed, I'll say something like, not a single computer was used in the filming of this movie, but just as a joke. But I don't love an over-reliance on special effects. What was that Spielberg one that they just Ready Player One, like that kind of would, it's sort of a bit too much for me. Kind of worried that it would take over here. And I don't think it did. And I think they used it to fairly good effect. And in terms of the quality, it didn't look cheap. It didn't put me off. Some others might have some comments along those lines, but you kind of needed it anyway. I mean, it's half the title. Yeah.
But they did. They had set piece moments, and they hid a lot of it. Like even the first interaction that kind of establishes the world after the exposition, you see the ant thing on a computer screen first as a blob, and somebody disappears as a blob.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I mean, they really did. They made sure that they kept us directed so that when they spent their money, they got maximum effect. And
let's not forget it was nominated for an Oscar as well.
That's right, for CGI, for visual effects. You're absolutely right. So. And I understand why Tenet won, but why not? I could see some people might get pissed off, but I'm like, I don't know. Shouldn't we award people who can kind of come up with something great with peanuts?
Yeah.
And I'm sure.
And you're right
peanuts
about that sensor, signifying the ant. And that's one way to tell a story, right? And then they pull out the shower curtain, where you just see the shadow. You're like, oh, this will knock $20 off it. Where they just have the, it's the old, it's the Indonesian shadow puppets basically behind it. That's another way to tell a story. Unless you're sort of focusing on that, you don't think about it, that they didn't actually they showed a little bit of the tip of this ant thing that killed one of the characters, but they mostly had it in shadow. No, we came out afterwards. Yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. Because the guy killed it with a samurai sword. So you eventually did see it, but there were a few seconds less of it, I guess, which would probably save money, I imagine.
Yeah. Well, every second, 24 frames, more rotoscope, more. Yeah, I think this is a perfect time to hook over into sound, because that was another technique they used to both build the world while saving money. Like, I'm thinking about, he goes into that house. Has he passed his first, or not quite past his first? He's past his first threshold experience, right? He left the thing. He's dealt with one monster, maybe. Oh, maybe he hasn't even done that. He went into that house because he heard noises, opened the fridge. Horrific noise comes out of it. Great effect. Slams it, and off he goes doing other stuff. And it's just a great little moment. Gives us a nice jump scare, showing us nothing, using sound to deliver that frightening experience. So like I'm using that as a segue, but I do think they use sound to set mood at times, to make it feel relaxing and kind of out in nature beautiful, while at the same time, when they needed to, they could punch.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of that sort of, sound in the distance. I personally don't know how he got any sleep or anything during his journey, because I would be freaked out. But yeah, it's that sort of the jungly sound all around him, and then when the monsters did show themselves, there was obviously that accelerated. But yeah, I mean, anything from where the dog barking or not barking became kind of a like a sensitivity, right? And like, shh, don't bark. That was, is the dog going to bark? Oh, there's the dress. What's going to happen? So that was kind of interesting. Yeah.
And they would use the sounds of the monsters to kind of foreshadow, and it was that creepy crawly, or but yeah, like again, like you're having a frightening experience before you even see the thing, the stuff that would come out of the ground, and so you just saw one little thing and heard a little bit, where all of a sudden it's, this isn't right. We're in a bad spot here.
The fin starting to go through the grass and that sort of thing. But another aspect of it is the what was the name of was it Wilma or Maria? The name of the Mavis. Mavis was the robot.
The
right?
robot. Yes.
And that is both the look and the sound.
The Kayla in his colony. Sorry, continue, Jim. My bad.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say that robot, and even so that's both look and sound, is the design of it, and suddenly you're back into a sort of, for a second or two, you're back into a functioning society, right? And that with the sort of and I love. If I was a collector, and I don't need more stuff in my house, but I would totally be into robots. Like, the design of them, Bender on Futurama, the movie Robots. It's really interesting to me to see how they creatively come up with different kinds of robots, and I quite like this one. And it had that sort of both futuristic and sort of futuristic and retro at the same time a little bit, especially with the Mavis in the hotel area, because it was one of those old drive-up hotels or hotel motels. But and then her voice, right, and that kind of the computery voice, and and then there was other aspects of technology, the ham radio, and that thin light, that thin sound, that thin radio that could just die in a second. And and it was a lifeline, but it felt fragile, and I thought that was another aspect where they use sound to convey something about technology. Anyway.
Yeah, and to build the world and make it real. Going back to Mavis for a second, there's another like both look and sound that really worked. Again, a monster cut off my. So all of a sudden you don't have to have the thing walk. It has to do less. And you buy it because you've seen enough of the violence to go, of course something cut off its legs, and you get to have a gag when the dog brings it. But one of the things Vlad65 had referred to it earlier in the talking about was there any key like music cues that you were really into, or like myself, like I could hear it when I was really paying attention for that. Like I was I was really in the movie, so it wasn't like me too. I rewatched the trailer just today, and they used the Kinks, and I thought to myself, where did they have this in the movie? Look at the soundtrack listing, and I think what one passage is called Kyle Freezes, so I thought, this is probably original. But anyway, or was that the character's name? No, what was Dylan O'Brien's character's name? Joel So that Joel freezes, and I thought that was kind of funny. They're very literal, those soundtrack listings, Katie just pointed out Arcade Fire
just in the notes, and that was one. I think there was an overhead shot of the town, and it was showing maybe the Ferris wheel at the end, and Arcade Fire came on, and I thought, oh, that's an interesting choice.
Yeah.
And Vlad's pointing out Only the Lonely by Roy Orbison too. So
yeah. And there was another one where they're just sitting out on that stoop at that motel with the jellyfish, the glowing jellyfish.
Yeah.
Wasn't Stand By Me. Like, it got cut off because the batteries ran out.
Yeah,
which I also thought was a great move. And again, and who knows? That would have been another big money music cue. Needle drop. We were like, okay, battery runs out now because we can't afford any more of that song. But even
10 seconds.
It did add to the poignancy. It's the first time he's probably heard a radio song, let's say, for but heard a recorded song in years, and it cuts off there as he now loses another connection to, which I think goes to one of the themes of this film, losing that connection to the past, to the old life that he's still kind of hanging on to. Why don't we let's keep this moving. We're doing well. But I think the performances, another one where it's like, I thought Dylan O'Brien, this young man who could play a nebbish, as you say, while at the same time being a handsome young man. So he pulled that off. You're not doing one of those, like Jesse Eisenberg. He's harder to he looks so much like a nebbish. It's hard to think of him as a smooth operator, or do you know what I mean? Like it's tougher for him, but still, that's still something to pull off as an actor. I enjoyed him in The Maze Runner. I thought he was fine in that, but I think, he's basically in many respects in a one-man play a lot of this film. And I thought the young man pulled it off. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's it's like any number of what you're saying, like a good-looking young guy. I'm so lonely, it's kind of. But I mean, and then I thought, is it possible for him to have a relationship? I'm not saying that the partner of the one who was killed by the ant. I thought, well, that my wife said they should get together, but I give her some time, let her heal a little bit. But this is
she was also the only one who thought it was a great idea. Well, not thought it was a great idea, but she was the one who smiled when he was going for his girl.
His
yeah.
No, it was. I thought he did a good job. I think he was it was a bit of a delivery clinic. Like he was maybe even for himself. Like it was that sort of. It's that there are people with unique deliveries out there like John Cusack, and I thought it was sort of a Cusack-y junior. The guy's 29, so he's not a spring chicken, but he's been in the game for a while. I'm really not super familiar with Teen Wolf or Maze Runner, but I think it was sort of his it's very character based. Sure, there's some set pieces, but a lot of the comedy and a lot of it's not just him going through the paces, but comes from his character.
And he doesn't become like a master. It's not now I know Kung Fu. Like he's still kind of uncomfortable, and like I still bought the contrast. This is what I'm kind of really impressed with them, is that even at the end, there's that great moment when they're who's the guy who plays Thor? Chris Hemsworth. So their budget Hemsworth comes out blonde, rugged. I might.
Yeah.
and he has a moment where I'm buying that he's like, oh great. like just because the guy's a stereotype. And then even the namaste, like because he's very touchy feely and just oozing charm and heroicism and Australian masculinity. It's just I still bought it even after his arc. Like he got there, he made it, he's done all these things. He's still held back a bit, and I bought it. So. And I think that's hats off to the player. Like, yeah, the direction's there and everything. Like it's all, but we got to give some props to the player. What about the other folks? And this is what the heck was that guy's name again?
A few people in the chat are bringing up Michael Rooker, and it was. I like it when somebody plays against type. Michael Rooker is always seems anyway to be the bad guy in a lot of things, or at least rough around the edges, or not sort of maybe an anti-hero type. He was a troubled character in The Walking Dead. He's the blue guy with the whistle and the arrow in Guardians of the Galaxy. What's character's name?
Damn it!
Help us out, chat. Anyway, so rarely does he play like just a decent guy that I half expected him to.
Mondo, Yandu.
Yandu, okay.
Yandu.
Yeah, Yandu, okay. Thanks, Dragon Movie Guy. Oh, Eric Thorpe too. Yandu. Everyone's saying Yandu. Dragon Movie Guy beat Eric
Best
Thorpe
chat
by 4
on the
seconds.
internet, folks.
But he was so sort of magnanimous that I thought that he's going to turn on him. Oh, he's totally going to turn on him, but he didn't. And it was nice, and it was neat to see him in sort of a nice as a good guy, as a genuinely good guy, and he seemed to have a nice connection with Minnow, the little girl Minnow there too. Yeah. And if there is a sequel, I have expected. I think a lot of the last bit was setting it up for a potential, loves and monsters.
Yeah, well, but at the same time, if they never did, I'm still digging that ending. What about, I'm going to put them up on the screen right now. What about this dude?
Yeah,
he's the one he ended up kissing. And where do we remember him from? Everybody, come on. He was the gyrocopter captain in... Come on.
Road Warrior.
Road Warrior.
Right.
Mad Max 2 Road Warrior. And I was like, I'm like, no way, stop. And I'm like, it's got to be him. And it's the time, like, what's already, we're in the third act now. Like, everything's, and I'm still, no, I have to double check this, because if that is awesome. And I want to go back to just that, what a great, again, that weird little shout out, because he's barely in the movie. He's there to have like 2 moments and wander by. You're casting him, and you probably have to pay a bit of a premium on a budget film.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yes, they're shouting out to their apocalyptic forebears, while at the same time critiquing them.
Good catch. And this is not the second movie that we've done that's had him in it. He was in Road Warrior, he was in this, and he was in that Australian invasion movie that we did last year.
What the heck was that? Like, it was a Independence Day homage.
With
let's be gentle and call it an homage.
One of the few movies I've actually seen footy
Temuera Morrison was in it. He was one of the leads, and some young people who do dumb things.
Occupation, alien leader.
Yeah.
So that was actually good. When you said stunt casting, he's 75. Holy cow! Anyway. So that was nice to see. I sort of half expect, I when he came on the screen, I thought, is that the guy? And I totally forgot about it. So I'm glad you brought it up.
I was like, second. Now by then I'm totally primed because I really am. I'm seeing a lot of these, and it was something Walt had brought up. Vlad65 had brought up pre-chat. Referring to A Dog and His Boy, another post. But there is a lot of moments that kind of bring up other post-apocalyptic films. That if not necessarily direct kind of Easter eggy kind of things, just in vibe and that you in premise you're kind of buying. But in this one, I think they turn it all upside down. Is there anything else you wanted to say on
performances? I thought
looks like everyone thinks Michael Rooker was great. Felt they were great. Well, he was great in this film. Yeah. He did not. Sorry, I want to add on this.
Yeah,
I would be interested in what you think, and folks in the chat whether they think I'm talking on my. You knew he was just there a couple of days. Like you knew it. Like you can just by the point he's in the film, and they have a child on set, so it's just making it tight. But I didn't feel like he was collecting a paycheck. Like he was super relaxed in his. Like he wasn't, like you said, Jim. He wasn't bringing out, and I'm sure that's partly direction because it fit with this film. But he was when he was told, listen, be more mellow, be more like a real dad, just be chill and kind. And he was, I can do that. Yeah, I'm going to do that. Well, he still can get in the say, okay, not both.
Yes, yeah.
He delivered that bit. He delivered these things. I
didn't get either. I didn't get sleep or food.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
So what? Let's go.
Stay on your toes, kid. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That was good. And I thought the female lead, I think Walt just mentioned it. It's funny because I was going to mention her. I thought, part of this movie is sort of and again, I don't think the story is finished, but I thought there was sort of there's a little bit gutsy to build in that anticlimax, that it wasn't a guaranteed thing, that maybe, and it's interesting in this age of consent that he was like, yeah, I guess I didn't check with you first.
I didn't even ask you if I could come.
Yeah. And
but I don't think that was a consent thing. Like I mean, think that's
I mean metaphorically, sort of, long scope. I don't mean literally, but that he hadn't considered what she might have done. And a couple things. It's interesting that Carla and I, when we were watching it, Carla thought it would have been more interesting to have her sorry, we're talking about performances. We'll save that for later. But we'll talk about story in a bit. But so she did a great job. A lot of other, I guess we covered the main roles, didn't we? The guy who played the captain was funny.
I bought his first family, his first colony. Given that they were, no one's given a lot of time here to really develop. I bought that sounds worse when you say it out loud, but he has his realization moment later, but I bought the deliveries, of all the deliveries of all his first colony folks, that they cared about him.
Yeah.
At the beginning, they cared about him. They're trying to acknowledge his feelings while at the same time kind of going, yeah, we can't have you do this because this ain't you. And we're trying to, but that they cared about him, that they trying to take the sting out of it while being frank. There's great, why does this sound practiced? Like he gets the gag, but they are I thought they did well. And I think it is something Vlad had referred to, and I've got a note to bring it up later. We can talk about the age of all the cast because it wasn't just at the end, but at the beginning, it's like, wow, guess no parents made it out. like at the beginning, it's like,
Yeah.
it's all young people, but we could talk about that a bit more later. Anything else we want to add about performances before
No, I think
before we move forward?
I think we covered them.
Okay.
The little girl, I thought, I get kind of the one who played No. Sometimes the precocious child gets a bit old, especially on like American sitcoms. They're all over the place. She was sort of doing a little bit of that, but not entirely. I thought she was
And we got it in the right amount.
Yeah, and I thought she did a good job. And it was obviously that she was drawn to this new character, and as someone who's probably constantly looking for family, that it's kind of an older brother kind of thing, I think, I kind of bought it, and she added some warmth to the cast. I thought she did a good job, and it wasn't that overly precocious, but
and for the newt of this movie, because that's what she was.
Nice callback
again.
Yeah.
Because I think this movie was just it's very familiar with the characters, the loved characters of so many of these films that it's a beneficiary of and could be overwhelmed by. And I'm like, no, it's like, oh, you're Newt, and the although I think it was played by a little boy let's go back to Mad Max 2, the little boy, the wild child,
feral boy,
the feral, she's got a bit of that in there, and I think they played it the way they did on purpose. I was okay with it. All right, let's get into get into the story. DMG. I don't think we were talking about her parents being asked for permission. He was the character come into the performance here. Let me put this up on the screen. DMG says, Dragon Movie Guy says, it is worth noting Jessica Enwick is 29 IRL. I know, again, age appropriate, like it's because it's set 7 years after when they were teenagers.
Yeah.
So, might be weird to ask if her parents approve when she's pushing 30, LOL. That wasn't what he was saying. I should have asked the parents. I should ask you if I could come. Like he was just going to come. She's like, I never thought you'd actually do it,
Yeah.
Which, again, was a nice little honest moment. She didn't have, somebody had said, I think it was Vlad, said she didn't have much of an arc, but it was so well performed. The moments together at the end especially, I thought they worked. She was kind of like, I knew someone. This is super romantic.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
Oh, well. Anyway, story-wise, why don't we start with, because I think I know what you're talking about. Why don't we talk about the story deficiencies?
Sure.
First, and then, because I really want to get into praising this film, both on story and on meaning, because I'm just so impressed with this flick. But, you go
so,
first.
Okay, I've got a couple things. Okay, this first one, and I think it came up during when we did our political run of movies back pre-election last year. I think it was Game Change. Was that the name of it? The Sarah Palin movie?
Yep.
And there was a big moment, a big reveal, and I can't remember what it was, but they didn't have it in the script. And in this one, I'm sort of wondering, and this is a genuine question, is why, like, we come into the story 2 weeks after he's found her by ham radio. Would it have been too time consuming to have him find her on ham radio rather than us coming in 2 weeks in? You know what I mean? Like that seems like a missed opportunity to me. I'd say money shot, but that's kind of a gross term. So, but yeah, is that a missed and genuine question. Like I'm not by asking the question, I'm not saying it is, but I'm sort of interested in the mechanics of that.
Yeah.
Or do we just want to dive right in?
I kind of
like,
see
okay,
what you're saying. Yeah.
Connection to it.
Was there something on the cutting room floor where they actually he did discover, and then they're like, oh, let's just refer to it in a later scene.
Yeah.
You know,
because this is an obvious moment of drama. You know, like, oh, it's you can sort of you know, it wouldn't write itself necessarily, but you know, I just sort of wondered about that and how everyone else felt. You know why
that would be tough? It'd be then harder to establish their connection. Better to come in later. I think maybe, just thinking out loud, maybe it was better to come in for the filmmakers to go, we'll come in later into their connection where they're talking to each other already.
Yeah.
You know, that they have they've reestablished some rapport versus from the get-go, then like, that's just me. I could see somebody making that call. I think there's worse, let's say, other deficiencies that I'd be more, you know, I think were more interesting than this one. It is interesting you bring that up, though, because I had a hitch there. I didn't see it as clearly as you did, but there was kind of a, oh okay. Because I'm being brought back in time, and then you see the notebook, and it's, I was kind of, honestly, there's a part of me was kind of okay with them. They had been connected for quite some time because they were reaching out to people. Did they even have to, you know?
Yeah, and just, you know, coming from the writer's point of view is that, you know, you think that you want to establish drama rather than sort of hop over it. But, you know, again, there's tonal issues, there's time issues, there's, you know, it clocked in at 1:49 or something like that. So I think they probably wanted to keep it under 2 hours, that sort of thing. You know, it's all, and a movie like this is all about momentum as well. So, you know, and it already had a lot of that back and forth kind of, you know, jumps to the, you know, chronological jumps. So, And so, what did you want to bring up in terms of deficiencies?
Well, I thought maybe some of his, especially at the beginning, there's a part of me kind of going, but at the same time, I was okay with it. I'm like, you know what? That's a hero's journey thing. The hero is usually tested at their limit at every major stage, right? Because he kind of has he makes the choice to go, but he crosses one threshold. He gets out of the bunker, but he has not met a threshold guardian yet. He finally meets a real one, the frog, and then the dog's there to rescue him, and not just rescue him, but to be his buddy for the rest of the movie, except a brief fight, so that they can have another point where the dog comes in and rescues him. And I thought that was almost getting a little too easy. And again, you know what? He needed a wise old man. He needed training. And it's okay, but when he falls into that worm thing, the worm pit, whatever the heck those things are called, and you know, and it's in the nick of time. He is rescued by another helper, you know, and it's true. At the same time, I'm like, his charm, Rooker, the character does need this. He is not going to survive without help. He's made mistakes, but he's not going to survive without help. He needs helpers. He needs that guidance so that when he's truly on his own, after the midpoint, you know, when he has his first real test and where he's really got to dig in and, you know, kind of, I'm going to say man up, but I don't think that's quite it. Like, I mean, what they do with masculinity is different here, but I felt maybe it's like, ooh, you're really getting close to easy here, you know, I hope.
Yeah.
But at the same time, later on, the threats and the stakes did rise. Like, by the midpoint, him and that dog are connected, and he's no longer with the wise old man and his little sister, you know. So I don't know. Those are the two. I thought those are the two items that I thought were a little, you know, well, and heck, actually, never mind. So there's that point. Although it's all properly set up, it's not a plot hole either, because he does get a radio, and so he's able to communicate with her. So when he does get sick, and he's picked up by her, you're not going, well, how the hell did they know? It's like, no, we know. And we know not in a contrived way. It totally makes sense. He took the radio at the beginning. He finds a battery with Mavis, which is part of the reason he doesn't get to hear the whole song, et cetera, et cetera. There's a great cathartic moment with her, like all that stuff. Like, so it does work. But at the same time, it's like, wow, you're not just you're a fortunate man.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny you say too easy, because that's actually one of my columns that I wrote down, too easy. And so I had a few things, is that, you know, I mean, you can argue he was within 10 miles of Jenner Beach, I think was where she was. Amy finding him, you know, yeah, I mean, it was set up. It was fortunate, but I can overlook that. Yeah, him finding Amy, on the radio initially, and then the whole the sort of the you know, the dog at the end. Somebody in the chat called it an Air Bud moment, or something like that.
Well, it was. Like, it's like almost like him and the dog had to have a fight, because that happens.
Well, it was interesting because I called
so
it.
that
I called
he
it
could come in later.
Yeah, I called it a white fang moment, but it wasn't a white fang moment, because he wasn't scaring him away for the dog's own safety. Yeah. It was a genuine art, like it was a genuine sort of, he was blowing off some steam. Here's a question: is that and Carla had brought this up, is that all the stuff floating back down to Earth that affected all the creatures, did it make what effect did it have? And I think Katie said, why not mammals?
Yeah. Where was the giant sheep?
Did it make the dog smarter? Or was it just a smart dog? And we didn't talk about the dog and the performances, by the way. It was I apologize for it. But yeah, I love the dog. And I wrote down a few quotes. This is Carla talking while we were watching the movie. If that dog dies, you're in trouble. She said that to me. I'd rather have the dog survive than Joel. So those are a couple of
you can't.
Of selections.
To kill the dog, you have to have it in such a way that it gives that it's a huge payoff, actually. To something like I want to let's and some of these things, I think these are story moments, although they're going to hook into I think you and I though agree that some is a little easy. And it's only Richard's comment here, I think, that actually kind of goes why I was like maybe I was okay with it. Although okay, here's what Richard says. Richard L. in the chat says, this is a fun movie, but I found it undermined itself with so many predictable plot elements that deflated any possibility of suspense. I'm going to say it wasn't a suspense movie. It was like it in some ways, it may have actually, it may have been consciously undermining suspense, but it was too comic, too much a celebration of, like, it's love and monsters. And even the more he learns, the more he learns, the more he's like, actually, it's not that frightening out here. You know, it's not as bad as we've been led to believe.
And before we go on to the next bit, I just want to talk about some of the codifying that, like, sort of the built-in code to the movie that they did really successfully. One was a little on the nose, and that was the medicinal plants that he relied on after he got poisoned by the leeches, where they actually talk with the voice of Michael Rooker and the Minnow character. So that's all the part of the things that they tell you that are going to come up later. So they're sort of building a code into the movie. The other was the berries, and they made a lot of. They made sort of a big deal of shit. Not a big deal, but they lingered on the berries initially. These are poisonous. The dog was barking. And the other one is the eyes of the monsters. Is that you look into the eyes of them to see what they're really about. And I thought that was a nicely done. Yeah, I thought that was a really nicely done part. I mean, like I said, the talking medicinal plants was a bit on the nose, but I thought that was kind of a neat thing. As for the dog coming back, that's all that part of that, and we've seen this a million times. They've done it in Lord of the Rings, they've done it in Star Wars. Hello, Han Solo. It's that forgotten ally. It's like, he's there, and they make you forget him, and then he sort of comes in at the end. Like
exactly. They had the fight so that he can do the rescue later. Like, only reason. I want to,
but it's a true method. I thought he went up to I thought he followed Clyde and Minnow up to the mountain.
Yeah, no, I was. That was a point where it kind of took me a little out of the movie because I'm like, really? The dog runs away? Dogs usually at these moments like start to whine.
Yeah.
And really get clingy. Okay, we've got one as Katie says, in movies like this, there's always giant bugs, reptiles, and sea creatures, but rarely mammals. Where was the giant sheep? It does conjure an entertaining image. It's interesting. Other than this is, and I want to come back to tropes and that, and why I like this movie so much. You know what? This is like, do you remember Damnation Alley? George Papard. Jan Michael Vincent.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Giant cockroaches and a whole bunch of other stuff. Other than the only one that did it with other things, like with mammals, is Annihilation. Everything else is actually, and what it does in Annihilation is fucking horrific. What a great yet horrifying and disturbing film. But here, and I think they consciously use that because they're really leaning into all the genre expectations, creepy crawlies and slimy stuff and just gross that we don't, and stuff that we are frightened of, although they're very small, and yet they become big, and all of a sudden, whereas a giant sheep, I'm not saying it couldn't hurt you. Night of the Lepus, giant rabbits.
Yeah, that was on TCM about 2 months ago.
You're but you know what I mean? Like, it's usually these things, and that's, I think, why they did it, because they wanted to look, this is what happens, and so that they can undermine it, later. Anyway, let's lamb chops. And apparently it passes the dog test. And yes, there's two dogs twins, I suppose, that played boy. All right, we've got let's get into the meaning, unless I think we kind of beat up on the story. There is some folks, it looks like, out there where they're like, yeah, there was just not enough tension, not enough suspense to keep their interest. Myself, I was getting more wrapped up in the emotional journey, which I think was,
me too.
Remarkable. All right. And I think although that can be a discussion as part of the story, but I think it's a perfect kind of point to get over the, to get into the meaning of the film.
Sure.
Yeah, Jim, for myself, initially I was like, okay, are we just seeing a kind of a take on Zombieland or Warm Bodies? Another
yeah.
one to kind of flip around our expectations. But I think this actually went further. I think, and how they were able to mesh it together is super impressive to me. And yes, Vlad65, there is meaning in this film. And that's why it's called Love and Monsters. I'm glad they didn't use any of the other working titles, and it was going to be X and Y for a while. Because it's deeply about love and family, and a gentle but a critique of that being obsessed with, that love that could have been, that romantic love. You know, he leaves the family that loves him, and right from the get-go, he leaves them. He is offered family, but he's just obsessed with this girl that it's been 7 years. But people are gently saying, boy, is she worth it? Are you sure? Are you? Like, no one's really, they're gently challenging him as your friends would do. You know, they'd never rub your nose in it or you're an idiot. But, you know, people who love you try to nudge you, you know. And yeah, the way it plays out at the end, I think kind of says, it's like, she was so, it's a great come down moment where she's like, there was somebody I lost very close to me. I'm sorry. It was a great fantasy of the before time. Like, 'cause she had been in a leadership position pretty much since he was fortunate enough to be taken in by a group physically with his chandelier, which is a great weird moment.
Weird thing for the mom to say, but
I even loved that, because that's the kind of things refugees do. You know, usually we're presented, okay, we got this gun and here's a weapon, like everyone's a soldier. No, they aren't. It's not the way people behave. But I think that there's that critique. She has been in this. She's having a bit of a fantasy thing, this radio thing, because she's like, he's not coming. Nobody does that. Not just like she apologizes, but she's not totally owning everything, nor should she. She's like, I really didn't think he'd come. And unspoken, who the would think he'd make it? Especially to this guy. But that also goes into, and this is the other, what I love about this film is that it also is questioning the unspoken assumption. And this is something you and I talked about when we were asking if Mad Max 2 held up, Road Warrior held up, or saying, you know, there's something about these apocalypse movies that are fantasies, that the people want to see this, that everything turns to shit and it's just mayhem. Whereas here, this is a wonderful human critique of that. The first colony, they're mindful of his feelings even as they're going through loss. They're loving each other. They don't want him to go, but they respect his need to go. We see all the things that it's at the end. They're like, oh, all these other messages that have come out. Rooker is kind, like definitely a father figure, a wise old man who at time. All right, well, you don't get both, one or the other. Good night's sleep. Which one do you want? He is
tough
but
love,
but not too tough. Like he's the way he talks. You know, we've all lost people. That he is even at the end when it's no weird turn, because you're expecting that weird turn where it's like, all right, we're gonna eat you now or something. Everyone, the majority, because usually in these films, the majority of people are awful or barely surviving and they need a hero. Whereas this one, it's the reverse. There are a few dicks, but most people are trying to get by and helping each other and being kind and caring and want connection and stability. I love that. I'm getting choked up now thinking about it. And it's just such a great, gentle critique of the post-apocalyptic film, which also fits into this whole idea of thinking about love not just between two young people, because and it at every stage, like, I mean, even the dog is a mirror. The dog almost gets them both killed because he can't let go of the red dress.
Yeah.
Because that's the dog's connection to a past.
Yeah.
The only reason it left the go find your own bus, which is another great bit of set dressing. Like,
Yeah.
the art department did a great job in this. Everyone did a great job in this film. I think that's what they were going after. It was, you had a few jump scares, but in the end, they were not interested in creating terror suspense. They were interested in creating, hey, when is this kid gonna get it? And and because they like it, if it's there's a bit of a flaw in that they loved all their characters, you know, except for the Australian and the again, and those three were stereotypes of what you get in every fucking apocalypse movie. The gun on the hand thing, and I was the Royal Australian Navy, and, you know, these military types are supposed to be the superior, you know, in all those movies, in all those apocalypse movies, zombie movies. These are the folks you want to be around, and it's like, it's seeing the exact opposite. They're the odd ones out. It was something I noted at the beginning. Boy, no parent made it. Like, they're very young. Like, in the first colony, they're very young. And then you have the old folks at the end. But there's a part of me also thinking, I suspect they're doing it on purpose, not just to be it's just an ageist crack about old people jokes, but more about, well, yeah, even a young woman and some old people can stay alive and can build something together. You don't necessarily, you know, it's all a critique of all these assumptions of every other. I think that's why I just love this fucking movie, you know, even with its deficiencies. It's just, it gets me in the feels, man.
You know, further to that, his colony is all sort of youngish, you know, probably the age of the characters and friends at some point, you know, that you know, in between, like, in between university, a little more diverse, but in between university and sort of career-y times. But so when, and you probably noticed, it sounds like you noticed it, when he had the chandelier in his hands, he'd watched his parents get crushed to death. Those are the same people that saved him. Like, those are the people they bundled him up in the truck and took him away. So that was just by chance. And then when they showed the montage at the end, when he's reading over, you know, he's sending out the mass ham radio message. Basically, they're showing a montage of families and other groupings of people, and so they're not all in their 20s. So they just happen to focus on these two different camps, basically.
These incredibly attractive young people, and then these kooky hippie old people and their caregiver.
Living in an amazing place on the beach, by the way, that centerpiece with the daylight coming in. We saw that, we're like, oh, that's kind of cool. Why would you want to leave there?
There's a part of me, it's like kind of, Buddy made a good point. Something I want to put it up on the screen here. Vlad makes a good point that I don't agree with, but I think we need to bring it up. True, sure. Rob, but until he's leaving, he really doesn't get a super level of support from his own colony. I found all the heartfelt messages on the map came out of left field because of that. I actually, I thought they were as best as they could be. Like, it's still even when there's those, like, neighbors having sex and they're trying to be quiet because he's the only one not paired up, and they're like, I mean, they acknowledge him, and he's not. And this is where I think they really danced a line almost perfectly, but they didn't get into that weird masculinity where he's they're not treating him as like like a
weirdo or something, or
well,
like an
no,
outcast.
I want to be crasser than that. Like in another film, he'd be the bitch, and that would be his character growth.
Okay, yeah.
You know, and they didn't do that, which I really appreciate. And it's only when the Australian brings up all the same things and he's like, you know, where you go, now you're a dick. The other ones were like, hey, you know what? We're all here. We're all important. Okay, maybe keeping the radio and making the minestrone doesn't sound as important. But they're like, they love him and they care for him. They're like, they get why he leaves, but they're not, like they weren't, no quiet hidden comments about, oh, well, he's really the weak link here. Like, he's not leaving because he's a burden. He's leaving because he does need a purpose. He's got a problem. He freezes, you know, fight, flight, or freeze, and he's only got one of those 3 cards, you know.
And assuming, it's sort of interesting, assuming that he's the youngest member of that first camp, you know, being 22 or 23, because this is 7 years after he's 16 or 15 or whatever.
Yeah.
So being in his early 20s, I mean, that's typically the time that young men, probably young women, get restless too. You know, that's when typically I went backpacking through Europe when I was 22. And so this is that thing. It's that, and it's almost, you know, people go teach English in Japan like we did, or they go tree planting, or they, you know, there's something ahead, something a little bit different. And they're drawn to a different, they want to quit their fry cook job and, you know, go off to another country, or join Katimovic back in the day, or, you know, what have you. And that's, so that sort of sizes up nicely with that. In the desire for a journey, he loses what he already has, right? It's that taking for granted of the life that he's currently living, and that there's value in that too. At the same time, they say don't settle. So that was one of the sort of the things that people said verbatim. You know, you don't have to settle, and so I sort of wonder if that's a little bit muddled. But you know, that's
the way I read that, the way I read it, like in the context and everything. Although it could be off base here. But the way I read it, or the way I reacted to it in the moment, was, people who care about him are going, is she worth this? Just because she was connected to you, don't just settle for the one, you know, you can, I'm not sure where they thought he would find another woman out there, you know, given how everyone was behaving, but that he didn't. I even admire, yes, he ends up kind of saving the day. But he first makes the choice to go home. He's like, I got to go home. My friends need me. My family needs me. This has been a journey. Like, he's still got to sort it out, but it's been a journey where I'm like, my family's home. She's not my family. This isn't my tribe. Because she's saying, you know, I hope you stay with us. Just the good, right, and sweet thing to do and say. But he's like, I got to go. Oh, wait, I can't just ditch these people because that guy's a weasel. But even then, it again subverts the trope. It's like, I just love the way the 3 dipshits are dealt with, like with her literally going, you know, if you traveled 85 miles above ground, I can get rid of 3 assholes. And it's just a great visceral moment where you, and you kind of see like her, it's not the, I can be it's not a girl power, I can be a badass too. It's more, I got these old folks through this so far. I have skills, including getting rid of 3 assholes. Like, not even like the way their power is taken from them. When usually those kind of thugs in these kind of movies are given all the power and everyone's just trembling, you know, whereas, you know, there's this character, which I do buy, you know, going, oh, just 3 assholes trying to food stealers.
Yeah. Food stealers.
which is a great bit. I
Yeah,
love that
yeah.
whole food stealers bit.
No, what is
Everyone
this
is,
a thing? He's
then
starting
they-
to get frustrated. Why does everybody ask me about that?
Why'd you get kicked out of your college? Were you stealing food? Is that it?
No. Yeah, that kind of was a great chance for him to give a reaction to.
Yeah. And it's almost like is it acknowledging the food theft just to plant that, to have a bit that is paid off so well, like that you finally, food stealers.
Yeah.
You know, because that's, in the end, that's all they are. Not some power, or we're going to get this, and not a megalomaniac, just a con artist and a couple of bullies who, have enslaved a giant crab.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's interesting that the crab has to kill them too, and it's not somebody else does the dirty work, but that's typical.
Well, but I even think it was worthy of it. Like,
Yeah.
that was a great moment.
Well, it's a
Yeah,
horrific.
well, let the frag go. It's
Yeah,
a horrific death dealt with by the right thing. In this case, like, I mean,
The victim.
And it was also driven by a choice. I don't think he knew in that moment. He's like, yeah, this is one that would, if it can get away, it'll just go. I think that was his choice moment, not that he made some, if I let it go, then it'll go eat them,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he tears up the boat. That was kind of.
It just demolishes their crappy yacht. Oh, Walt. Okay, we got a couple of good things going on in the chat before we move on. I do, first of all, yes, Rooker is Obi-Wan. And I don't know about you, Jim. I gotta be one of those few people who liked the second Guardians of the Galaxy movie. Was it perfect? No, but I got it in the feels when Yondu says, he might be your father, but he ain't your pappy.
Yeah.
I love that moment. That was a great moment. Like, but in this one, he's even more loving, like not that bullshit. Namaste. Not the
Like a
bullshit
teacher.
of the con artist. Like just a great moment. But anyway, let's get to the comedy here, because it's not just this movie that had comic moments. DMG says he's thinking of Friends reunion as a post-apocalypse. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Of course, DMG continues. Now, I'm picturing Central Park on fire and Rachel using Gunther to fight off the giant bugs in her coffee. And then Walt coming in. Walt, because he's had enough. Walt is not accepting any of our BS. And as he says, Vlad65 says, I'm sick of giant crab with the heart movies.
Don't watch Moana then.
Well, maybe that's what he would love about. Maybe that's what he'd love about Moana's. Finally, a movie where the crab's a jerk.
Moana, the Citizen Kane of the 21st century. I love that movie.
That movie was awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
Genuine, not kidding.
Anything else we want to add as far as meaning? It's not perfect.
I'm just looking at my notes. Yeah. And this is probably story / meaning. The ending seemed a bit up in the air. Like is she interested in him again? They made a big show of her holding his book, right? And her final shot, it was a shot going up. So she had her book, and then it showed her face and sort of looking expectant to the future. So, there be a sequel. Who knows what's going on there? But
I liked the ending. I thought it was thematically consistent. Because and again, not just about family and human connection, but that also that the world actually can be beautiful. It's different now, but that it can be beautiful, that we can come out of our holes. Again, what apocalypse movie do you have any sense of hope? It has no hope at the beginning, not the middle, not the end. At best, you have an Adam and Eve ending where there's somehow going to repopulate the earth. Forget it. That young man and that young woman are dead. They're dying a week later. Here, there is a movie that, actually ends on a hopeful note that says not all human beings are shit, or weak.
Yeah.
There's no, he is the most regular guy hero we see in these movies, where he's still kind of schlubby, and even when he gets back, he's certainly, he's not just the minestrone guy anymore, but at the same time, he's not all hard bitten, and he's got a cigarette hanging out of his mouth, and he's still the same guy, which I really liked. And there's not a again, maybe not perfect. Maybe you can kind of, talk about some of the gender roles. Like, why is she the one taking care of the old folks? Like that was kind of, it's like, oh, maybe it was her old gig or something, but there's still, this is imperfect, but it challenges some of those masculinity fantasies that come out really badly in these kind of movies. It's the reverse of here, my friends, is this might be a bit of a, oh my God. Anyway, I'll bring this up in a second here.
Sure.
But yeah, I do think though that there is a, what's the word I'm looking for here? There's a gentleness to all the characters that, like, even when they're talking about, there could be good monsters, and they're like, oh yeah, they're fine. Oh, it can roll over you. It's like a moose. Yeah. What were we talking about? Yeah. Like, we were talking about moose, and we're not saying frightened of them, as you should be. But it's not like I'm mad at them, or I think we gotta go get all the moose before they get us. There is some humanity, and okay, here's my, Jim, here's I guess you could call this, here's my hot take. This is almost a critique of Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead.
Uh-oh.
Hot take.
Plug your ears, Eric.
If you look at Dawn of the Dead, and there is that loudmouth kind of jerk character, but you got to be a jerk, and you got to be able to take care of business and look somebody in the eye and kill them, and there is that character there who, he does die, but he dies heroically, sacrificing for the group. The Sarah Pauli's boyfriend, he dies a pathetic death. Even he's the only one who cares about anyone, as in a caring bone in his body. And she survives, kind of carrying on that badass. You gotta have a killer instinct. That's a gross oversimplification of the movie, but I got the basic beats here. This is not that. Everyone is, like, even with these three bad guys, they're assholes. They're not,
superhuman.
And it is. So all of a sudden you got a different idea of masculinity in one of these kinds of movies that I think it just turns everything on its head.
I'm just going to bring up something really quickly, and it's diverging a little bit, but Carla has started watching that Nassim Perdrad show, Chad, where this, she's a woman formerly from Saturday Night Live, plays a 13-year-old boy, super cringy, super awkward, and the Chad character is kind of Weasley, and not a great kid so far, but no, and it's interesting that you mentioned that first colony that he was in, that Joel was in this movie, was supportive, because I wonder if that's something that we should keep our eyes on. In Chad, his surrounding he's not bullied at all. He's a super awkward character, but the people, and I've seen less than Carla has, but the people are genuinely okay with him. All the drama and all the missteps come from Chad himself.
Yeah.
But everyone's fairly cool. There's not really, from what I've seen, there's not tons of bullying. There's not that superiority. Chad's obviously a down on his luck teen. But anyway, so I was thinking of that when we were talking about the supportive colony, and I sort of wonder if that's another aspect of how telling stories change, in this day and age, and maybe that's something that we should
which I think is
keep an eye on.
wonderful. Yeah, no, that's a great idea. We got some another. This is really kind of a cool comment from Walt that. It's right there in your face, and I didn't even think of it. But Walt says, meaning, use the skills you have, artist and chronicler, which was that character's real contribution. Like he said, well, I know, I got it all in my head. You keep this one. I got it all in my head. I can make copies. And he does. He makes a copy. And that's it. He's like the historian. Again, another beautiful moment that isn't, well, at the same time, not celebrating or denigrating. Like it's it's a great moment of an alternative view of masculinity.
Hey, Shakespeare, what you writing there? That kind of where he would be bullied. Hey, Four Eyes, what's with the book? That kind of thing.
Even the hustler, that con artist, I still think it was a great moment when the Australian comes out all handsome, and you can almost put slow mo, and if it was Michael Bay, it'd be slow mo. There'd be except Michael Bay, he'd be too busy with the camera on the other women, but it'd be slow mo on his abs up to his chiseled jaw and tousled hair and everything. But it's great. Walt says, watching this during a pandemic was an interesting vibe. That's a great point.
Yes, yeah. That was an excellent point about the artist and chronicler, too. I meant to mention,
And the chat keeps, because we do have the best chat on the internet, Jim.
We do, yes.
Already. Okay, here's a Richard Else. Have to have a Rob and Jim Moose episode number 2. Welcome to Canadian Movie Chat, folks.
Next week we're doing Down the Road again. Going down the road or whatever.
That is awesome. Welcome to Canadian Movie. How do you know it's a Canadian Movie Chat? They managed to bring in a Moose reference. And yes, DMG loves your Chad reference. But I like. It was just, that's awesome. All right, listen. I think it's time to talk about before we get into, do we think the director passed or failed? Because I don't think it's necessarily like a slam dunk here. Well, it is for me, but I still think it's worth talking about. And before we get into final thoughts, maybe it is time to talk briefly, folks, about what's coming up. We've got a lot of stuff coming up. If you look in the description, it's got all the movies right to the end of May. Before we talk about what's happening next week, I did want to draw everyone's attention to something. At the end of May, we're actually, we got a guest. I'm kind of excited. We're going to be looking at, here's the film we're looking at. At the end of May, we're going to see if Blade Runner holds up. The original 1982 version of Blade Runner. We haven't quite determined. Is it going to be the theatrical The Final Cut. That's the one on Netflix. I think it'll probably be that one, or it'll be the director's cut, because there's like 3-4 versions floating around out there. We'll get back to you no later than next week. But anyway, we're going to look at that. But we have a guest. He's a communications professor here at the University of Winnipeg. He also wrote a book called Postmodern Theory and Blade Runner. His name is Matthew Flisfeder. I might be mispronouncing that, and I will make sure I fix that for next week's episode.
That's a cool cover.
I don't know. Well, Jim, I think you're a part of my week of getting ready for Blade Runner 2049. Folks, Richard L. and Katie will remember this. And I was dating this woman at the time who I probably should have stuck with because she was willing to go along with some of this BS. But I actually did. I threw a dinner party, had people over for Blade Runner. Then we went, because it was the same week, this book launched. And the prof did an actual talk at a local bookstore. And then we had another dinner party and went to Blade Runner 2049. It was a week of Blade Runner. I perhaps go overboard. But I still remember a woman's name was Leslie, was not, this is definitely not her kind of movie, but she was up for it. And it was like, looking back now, it's like, yeah, now there's your keeper. Is it the person who's really into what you're into? Or is it the person who's like kind of, you know what? Sure, it's your thing. What the hell? Anyway, folks, I wanted to put that on your radar before we quickly go to here. I'm going to take the chat off there for a second. And Jim, why don't you tell us what we're watching next week, man?
All right, unless I know we had been talking about it tentatively, but we got.
I found out the price is good.
Okay, good, because Rob and I
I've done some research.
Springs are horrible for me. I have a pretty crazy week, but anyway, it's a Swedish movie, I believe, The Unthinkable, and there we go.
Yeah,
and I'll have to get a Swedish flag made up.
Yeah. Yes, sir, you will.
Full color.
I can say, folks, you can find it. It's being re-released or released in the States on May 7th. So next Friday, but it's already available on Google Play Movies here in Canada right now. Found it. You rent it for $5. It's, so on most demand. And so what you'll see is The Unthinkable 2018 and The Unthinkable 2021. They're both the same movie because it originally came out in 2018. It's a Swedish. Now, this is more apocalyptic, alien invasion, running, screaming, stakes, more of that more standard tension. But you can find it there. And it's Swedish. So Jim and I are really just continuing to work our way through Scandinavia.
And it'll be lighthearted. Easy touch. Everything's cool.
Oh, okay, folks, another round. We recently did another round. I forgot to tell you this, Jim. Maz Mikkelsen, a gentleman named Magnus Nygaard, commented on that video and said, yeah, you did pronounce it correctly. The D is silent, as D's should be.
Really?
It was just a great little comment. Not just, telling you you're on the right track, but having that nice little hook. I thought that was funny.
Silent D's, eh?
I didn't know that the Swedes and the Danes, etc., had a thing about D's in certain names, but apparently they do.
I love Enmark and Anish films. Just kidding. Because the D's are silent.
Yeah, I've caught the play there. So, Jim, let's. I think now that we've made our announcements, let us. What do you think? the director pass or fail?
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with this this particular director. I thought he did a fine job, like Michael Matthews. Tone is the key here, and keeping that tone, keeping it light. I mean, you're dealing with a situation where 95% of humanity has been violently killed, probably, and to have something light and kind of fun, actually, was and establishing that tone, keeping that tone, maintaining it. I suspect was probably a little bit different. Yeah, I think he did a great. It was light on its feet, and we didn't mention this before, but one of my favorite things, allowing things to breathe a little bit, like that scene with Mavis the robot at the hotel, was a long scene for a movie like this, 5-10 minutes perhaps, and it just it let everything sink in. It was raining. It was kind of a neat little bit, but that's maybe not a director's choice necessarily, but yeah, I thought he did a fine job.
Yeah, you're right, Jim. Allowing it to breathe, to allow us to get into the emotion of the scene, to let the scene have the emotional impact it needs to have, because I think this film was way more about the emotional impact, and you can't have that if you're forever in a rush. 18,000 cuts isn't going to work. I do want to highlight once. Well, actually, it looks like dueling smart remarks from the best chat on the internet. DMG starts with Swedish movies. Is that ABBA starring Fernando and Dancing Queen?
Oh, why is it
I'm gonna have to see what academic?
Movies?
You're absolutely right. I'm gonna have to see if what Epidemic Sound has for ABBA-like tunes. And then, I'm just Night of the Wolf clip. Swedish movies. See Count Floyd, Night of the Wolf clip from SCTV on YouTube. I want to look that up too. All right.
Territon.
Oh, so he corrects Hour of the Wolf. So everyone, if you're hearing this later, look up Count Floyd, SCTV, Count Floyd, Hour of the Wolf, to get the whole gag.
I'll give you a bit of a preview. It's Count Floyd accidentally orders an Ingmar Bergman film, mistaking it's about the relationship of two sisters, mistaking it for a horror story. So and it's minimalist dialogue. So they go to a hotel and it's just, what room are you? Turton. Turton. 13.
Yeah, I figured that.
It's awesome.
All right. For myself, I think the director passes with flying colors. Like, really was able to do it. But I'm wondering if some of it is Sean Levy, the producer of Stranger Things. Like, he's been an A-list director for 20 years, doing some great films, and he was the producer. He produces Stranger Things. Like, this is a guy who, how much that was that this director had that great kind of producer leadership, helping develop the script, because it's such a budget movie. I'm wondering if part of the reason it's young people, like, you've got one actor is going to cost you some money other than the star, and that's Rooker, and then everyone else, and it's like, okay, we'll use a bunch of young locals because they'll be cheap. That'll all be scale. Still a union picture though.
Yep.
And we'll use older actors, and because they'll be scale because they don't get speaking roles. This will all save us a lot of money. And
Cap
too.
The guy playing Cap is named Dan Ewing. He's actually an Australian soap opera, formerly, I think.
I was going to say, aren't they all? Doesn't every Australian star do some time on an Australian soap? Or several?
Home and Away. Yeah, I think those are the standard ones. Neighbors and Home and Away, and he was from Home and Away, I think it's called. And it makes sense, of course. But yeah. So I know what you mean there. So some interesting choices, I think there.
All right. Okay, DMG and Vlad going back and forth on great SCTV references. Folks, if you are watching this again, really need to make sure that the live chat's on, because not only the best chat on the internet, when they have their own adventures, it's entertaining on that side of the screen as well. All right. Well, I'm also thinking of the Schmengi brothers, because wasn't it there was Eugene Levy and they were more like a Bavarian kind of a knockoff of some
Lithuanian,
Lithuanian. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
No, CCCP TV was when the Russians took over the
right.
SCTV satellite, and they got Russian programming for
including
Russian game
Hey
shows
Yorgi instead of the King of Kensington. Yes.
Yeah. And they did it full on, it was a full vision episode. I think it was one of their 90 minute ones back when they were doing 90 minutes of scripted stuff, not live sketch stuff. Yeah. So
okay.
That's pretty impressive.
All right, Jim. I think we're at that point before final thoughts. What do you?
Sorry, I think I'm buffering there a bit. No, really. It was fun. Sure, it was family friendly. I think that's actually even in the Netflix description. But yeah, it was. And I hadn't really thought about what the points that you had made as deeply as you had. But yeah, it does. It is a different take, and you think when a movie gets made, what's its hook, right? Because it's got to be different from every other movie. So what's the point of doing this one? And I would say that, yeah, it's a different take on the apocalypse. It's a little gentler. It's a little bit less alpha. And it's quite a bit more optimistic. My daughter is currently going through The Walking Dead finally and binging it fully. It just sort of brought back some memories for me. It was a show I stopped watching a few years back, and I sort of always dreaded it. It wasn't a great Sunday night show. You're starting the week on Monday, and you're watching your favorite characters get eaten. Yeah, not a great combo. But this one obviously is a departure from that, and it an interesting take. Some of the stuff maybe the ending's a little bit maybe too pat. Some things come a little too easy, but it's charming enough and different enough that I think it's and it was fun. Really just at its base. After all was said and done, I was like, that was refreshing. I sort of enjoyed that. And not sort of. I did enjoy it. And that's my basic takeaway.
Do you think some of it is you going back to Dylan O'Brien and the way they established him early on and maintained it? He is so sympathetic without being like, you don't, at no time did I never not like the character. I only got into him more and more. I only liked him more and more. I only felt for him more and more. I felt for him when his ex-girlfriend of 7 years ago, get your head out of your ass, man, when she's, kind of gently telling him what's what. And he's, all I'm thinking where he does is, I didn't even ask you if I could come. It might be a woke moment. Well, then bring on more woke moments. Nice to see the, not get it to be a dick about it and pout or anything. No, he finishes his growing up. Like Walt said, in the end, he doesn't come back being a He-Man, the million guns, and I'm thinking of a different take on this character would be the father in Rick and Morty in the Cronenberg world, where he becomes this He-Man and the
Yeah.
real man of the family and all that. And it's like, this isn't that. This is, yeah, I really just,
Yeah.
and you're right. It's optimistic. It's hopeful. It doesn't think we're all shit or weak or, that everything's a threat, including nature. It says, come outside. Yeah. Yeah. Got me in the feels. Yeah. I'm just adding to your final thoughts. There you go. I'm so glad, especially after some hard movies we watched.
Yeah.
Like, moody just downright realistically depressing. This was nice to watch something. And as Katie said, pass the dog test. The dog made it out.
That's true. And again, I just want to. I don't think I said it outright, but
here, let's just say a quick good night to Walt. Thanks, Walt, for bringing your A game as always. Good to see you, man.
Yes, absolutely. But I was just going to say that it was sort of a gutsy choice to have them not connect, not necessarily. I mean, they clicked on a platonic level, but to not have that was pretty gutsy, because most of these types of movies would end with that kind of thing, right? And they were happily ever after. So we talked about risk and choices a couple weeks ago, and this I think was an interesting choice for them to make.
You have an idea of hope, and even that last scene, and it may have been Rooker may have literally been a voiceover he did on the phone from LA. But even that worked. Oh, he's using my line, and I hope the snow spiders don't get him. It's like, oh, that'd be a terrible way to go. It's a nice moment and I even love the fact that the old man and the little girl are still the ones who are way ahead of everyone, the actual living on the land folks, the OG, but that all these people are going, and there's this idea they can still die, but there's an idea that there is a possible future for her and him, but not, they'll be happily ever after. It's like, no, they're adults that may have a future.
Yes.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's not going back. Like, she gets to say the line now, I'll come find you. But it isn't necessarily like loaded with that, I'll come find you. It's it's a little bit of more romantic, little wordplay, and who knows how it's going to play out. But it's just a nice little callback, not necessarily a setup for a sequel. Although I got to admit, I suspect I'd be disappointed by the sequel, but I'd watch it.
No, I would too. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Okay, I think, wow.
That was a good one.
We managed to go 50 minutes, 35 minutes longer than the film is.
Well, some of that was talking to Jonathan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go ahead, Jonathan.
Some of that was talking to Jonathan, so I don't know if you're being,
you're right. Yeah, that's true. We did present our first award, Jim.
We did, yes.
Let us not forget that. You're absolutely right. Although that was a charming conversation. I'm really glad he could make it. And again, I know Sean and Cody aren't here. I'm not sure if Dan's still here, but thank you guys for helping us out with our first watch party. That was a lot of fun, and you guys helped make it, take it to that next super entertaining level. And to everyone who participated, well, you could see the value of what Jonathan got. You weren't missing out on much, and
bragging rights.
Guys. Bragging rights from us. Anyway, thanks everyone once again for joining us here tonight. Again, remember, next week, 9:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time, Universal Time Code, -5. See us here for the unthinkable. A little more same genre on the horror side, probably a little more drama and a little more classic, apocalyptic genre. But anyway, folks, again, thank you all so much for coming. Let's just make sure we got everyone here. DMG, the Oscar party was fun. And Brian, thanks so much for making it. Walt, thank you for coming. Who am I missing here? Richard and Katie, thanks for dropping by. Thanks for participating. Dan, the Upside Dan, thank you. We got Eric Thorpe. Great to see you here, Eric. And who else am I missing? Oh, Shashank made it. Sean from Lost in the Reel. Curtis. Yes, Curtis, thank you. You know what, Katie, I want a special shout out to Katie for making me think of giant mutated sheep. You know what, that's, like some of these films where you're like kind of even if it's this kind of upbeat and you're kind of icked out, this is a film, and then that comment, it's like, I'm not going to be waking up in a sweat. It's like, well, I might have been crushed by the sheep, but it was certainly soft. Who else?
You know what?
We got Shashank.
There was a woman named Mayra de Jesus who says, "Congrats, Jonathan!" Back when he was on a couple hours ago. So that's a new name for us, I think.
Oh,
so
yes,
hello, Mayra.
So, Mayra, yes, great. Thank you so much for dropping by. And sorry I didn't see the comment until it was, fudge. Should have made a big deal about you being here. Sorry about that, Mayra. Next time we will. All right. Anyway, everyone, I think I've got everybody now. And thanks for catching that one, Jim. And I think that's about it. Jim, I'll see you in the green room.
Okay, see you, folks.
Okay, see you in the green room, brother. And then everyone else, got one last smart remark from DMG. Thanks, brother. All right. Giant mutated sheep. There's a Trump fan post-apocalyptic movie. LOL. That is good. All right, everybody. I think it's where am I at here? Where am I at? I think it's time to turn down the tunes. Bring up the credits.
I've been in your world.